Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to give you my opinion on the World War II game mode in World of Tanks console. It's likely to be controversial, but I would like to iterate that a lot of this, well, all of it in fact, is just my opinion. None of this is sort of factually based. I'm not saying that anything I say is an opinion. I'm not stating it as a fact, so I just want to clarify that before we get into the details of what I'm going to talk about. Alright, so the title of this video is World War II Sucks. I will go on to explain why I have this opinion, but first I want to go over a little bit of the background. I started playing World of Tanks console a little under 5 years ago. I'm coming up to my 5th year anniversary. Not quite there yet, but I'm almost at 5 years. And the majority of my 5 years playing the game, most of that time was in the World War II game mode. So I am very familiar with how it plays, how it works out. I've spent most of my time in that environment within the game. A little over a year ago though, Wargaming introduced the Cold War game mode. And when it was released, there were only two tech tree lines. You had the line that ended in a top era heavy for the Americans, and you had the line that ended in a top era heavy for the Russians. The game at that point, the game mode at that point, Cold War, was, in my opinion, was stagnant and dull. And it was at that point that I thought, you know what, I still prefer playing World War II, because all of my premiums were World War II, all of the tanks I wanted to grind were in World War II, so it made no sense for me to play Cold War in the early days. But a few months passed, and Wargaming started to flesh out the Cold War mode with more tanks and more tech trees. This is where the shift happened in my mode of choice, or game mode of choice. Light tanks arrived in Cold War. First we had the Americans and the Russian lights, they arrived. And a little after that, the British line arrived, ending with the Challenger 2. That gave me an incentive to play Cold War a lot more. And since the light update and the introduction of the British line, I've played very, very little World War II. That is until this past week, where I decided to give World War II another try. And I was shocked. Honestly, I was shocked, and I've come away from it thinking, how on earth does anybody enjoy playing World War II? And for me, the biggest difference and the biggest issue I have with World War II, but comparing it to Cold War, is the vision system. And this part now, this is where my opinion comes into play. The vision system in Cold War is called True Vision, and as suggested by the name, your vision within that game mode is always true or active, we could say. If you have line of sight, you can see all tanks at all ranges at all times. In my opinion, this is how first-person shooters should be played, and this is how first-person shooter environments should operate. World War II, on the other hand, has a vision system that, in my opinion, is not at all intuitive. Even after 5 years of playing the game, it still baffles me and confuses me at times. I still don't fully understand how it is meant to work or how it should work. And I'll give you an example here. El Alamein is both a World War II and Cold War map, which is exactly the map that you're seeing in the gameplay in the background here. I have played it extensively. I played it extensively before 6.0, after 6.0. It's been around a long time, as have I with the game. I've been around with the game for a fair bit, so I know this map very, very well. Both caps on this map are relatively open, and especially the northern cap, which we have on my team, which is an A1, A2 at the moment, and is being capped by 2 enemy tanks, and we have 52 seconds left on the timer. Now, I've played Cold War so much that I had a plan in my mind on what I would do about this. I need to reset the cap, and I had a plan on exactly what I would do. And in my mind right now, given the speed I'm traveling and the time left, I have plenty of time to execute my plan. But what I hadn't counted on was the limitation that the World War II game mode would impose on me. Due to the World War II vision mechanic, and you'll see this just now as I come around the corner, due to the World War II vision mechanic, I can't see the two tanks that are capping, and we've now got 5 seconds left on the timer. I zoom in, nothing. I know there are 2 tanks there, but I can't see anything. Even as I drove closer to the cap and had the majority of my view range inside the cap circle, I still couldn't see them. And this is the crux of my point of view. In my opinion, that win in that particular game on El Alamein, that was not mano el mano, so to speak. They didn't cheat. The enemy team, those 2 tanks capping, they did not cheat. They did nothing wrong, so I can't fault them as players at all. That can't happen. The game mechanic won the game for them. If that had been a Cold War game, it would have likely gone the same way. It would have likely have been a defeat for me still, but for a different reason. In Cold War we have smoke, and smoke lasts for 15 seconds. If they had hidden in their smoke for the last 15 to 10 seconds of the cap duration, that would have been a smart play, and I would have been outplayed. And as a player, I can accept that. I was beaten by a superior playstyle. In World War II, not only are you fighting the enemy team, but I feel like you're also fighting the game mechanics as well. It's not a battle of 2 parties in some senses, because it's a battle of 3 parties. Being beaten by a game mechanic just doesn't sit well with me at all. It's not fun, and in my opinion, the World War II vision system is the odd one out when it comes to first-person shooters, which is what World of Tanks is. It's essentially a first-person shooter of a sort. Now, you know, to put that in context, imagine if you were playing Battlefield or Call of Duty, for example, and you're firing an infantry soldier running across an open field. All of a sudden, that enemy soldier just vanishes. That's basically the game saying, oh, by the way, you can't see him. Like, what do you mean I can't see him? Like, really? What? And on top of that, World War II has the matchmaker, which, you know, in a sense, the matchmaker is another way of the game saying, okay, that enemy soldier has a better weapon setup than you. They're 2 tiers higher than you, so they can see you, but you can't see them, and there's nothing you can do about it. Okay, go have fun. Like, really? What? That's what playing World War II is like after playing Cold War for so long. In my opinion, being outspotted and outgunned by a tier 9 when you're on a stock tier 7 is not a test of player skill. The game mechanics are aiding one player more than the other, and in those situations there's nothing you can do. In Cold War, you can be 2 tiers down, but if you're shot, you can see who shot you, and you can fire back, or you can deploy smoke so that you can buy yourself some time to retreat or to relocate, to find a better fire position. You're not helpless in Cold War, and the reason you're not helpless is because both sides in the fight have access to the same level of visual information. The World War II vision system introduces uncontrollable bias, and for me, when bias is in play, this is again my opinion, right here, it's my opinion, when bias is in play, it's no longer a test of player metal against player metal. If I lose because you tactically outplayed me, I can learn from that experience and I can become a better player. If I lose, or sorry, if you win because you can just see me and I can't see you, then, you know, what is that exactly? You know, what is it that we're dealing with at that point? And in my opinion, that's not a GG well played scenario. That turns to, when that's happened to me in World War II, all that does is turn the frustration dial up in my head. And if that happens enough, and you know, I'm speaking from personal experience here, all that's done is make me feel, you know, sort of bitter and frustrated with the game. And as a result, because of my own frustration and bitterness, you know, personal attitude, because of what I'm experiencing in the game, I've then felt irritated. I've been more likely to feel irritated with fellow players. And, you know, this is me going a little bit off topic, but I would hypothesize that the part of the toxic community within the game is in some part manufactured by the game itself, you know, by the mechanics that are in the game. You know, the game does manufacture frustration in its player base. But, you know, that's getting way off topic. That's a bit too psychological for, you know, we're not here for that. But, yeah, in a nutshell, I do not like the World War II game mode because of the inherent bias within the vision system. The Cold War vision system provides all players with the same level of information. The winning team is the one that best utilizes that information. And for me, that is a far more balanced and fair playing environment than the World War II environment. Now, I know that for some people, the downside to the downside to Cold War is the cost of everything. And my take on the cost of things is that, well, yes, it is expensive, but you do earn a heck of a lot more in Cold War. And this is evidenced by the number of times I have been asked, you know, how is it that you have 50 million silver? Oh, you know, I have 50 million silver because I play Cold War. Yes, the gun upgrade is 1 million silver, but if I'm earning 250,000 silver, 300,000 silver in a game in my premium tanks that I've gotten for free from the season, from the end of season tanks, the level 100 tanks from the season, then it's not a problem. It's not a problem at all. And that's where I feel the cost argument doesn't really stand up, because, you know, you can earn the levels required to pay for these modules. Now, the third thing that people would often talk about is having to regrind tanks. That is true, but for me, really, I haven't got a problem with that whatsoever, because I enjoy playing the Cold War game mode so much. I have just unlocked the FV 4005 in the Cold War mode, the ship barn as it's known. I have the tier 10 FV 4005, but the Cold War variant, for me, is by far the best variant of that tank in the game. I had no problems at all grinding it again, because I ground it out first time and it was painful. I ground it out the second time and it was an absolute joy to play. It was so much fun. I absolutely love the FV 4005 in Era 1. It is an absolutely, it's a crackingly good tank. It's this amazing tank. And for me, I really have no issues whatsoever with grinding out tanks again. But the biggest problem for me with World War II is the vision system. I feel that it introduces unfair bias into the game, and that's not controlled by the player on my team, it's not controlled by the players on the enemy team. It's an uncontrollable factor within the game, and for me, that ruins the experience of playing tanks in the World War II game mode. Alright folks, that's about all I have for this one. If you've enjoyed this video, please leave it a like. If not, a dislike. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and as always, I hope you're all still keeping safe, and I'll see you out there.